Hey, again, I'm in my Jimmy Jams and I'm actually answering a couple of questions. So this is really exciting, my first sort of Q&A video, and it was in response to a video that I did the other day about Kayla's first day of transition here in the Northern Territory in Australia. So Kayla H and Life Paths asked some very similar questions regarding how our school year is set up and how it all sort of goes down. So I'm going to be talking about those today. So that's very exciting. So Kayla H said, would you mind sharing how a school year works there? From what I understand, your seasons are opposite. So yes, our seasons are opposite. We are right bang smack in the middle of summer here, and it is just unbearable at the moment. And I do believe you guys in America are in winter. So some seasons are definitely opposite. And our school starts in January. So we just had our first day of school yesterday. So just to explain a little bit about terms and how they work and when they are, because I have worked in the UK in the education system as well, so they're also very different too. So we have 4 school terms here in Australia, and each term approximately goes for 4 weeks. All of the states and territories throughout Australia are also different. So for example, a friend of mine in New South Wales doesn't start till next week. We start here in the Northern Territory this week. So, whilst they're, reasonably sort of close, they are still different throughout the states as well. So, and for private and public schools are different. There's a couple of weeks variation. Like for example, private school might have 3 weeks holiday in June, July holidays, and a public school might have 4. So here in the Northern Territory, and that's what I'll speak about because that's where we're living, we start school in January for term 1, and term 1 goes for approximately 10 weeks, and it's Monday to Friday. Our school day starts at 8:05 and finishes at 2:30, which is an early start. Not normally when we were living in Queensland, where we came from originally, our school day would start at 9 and finish at 3. It's really hot here in the Northern Territory, so they take that into consideration and start the school day a little bit earlier. So it finishes earlier. So term 1 goes from January until Easter. So then we have our Easter break, and we have approximately 9 days off at Easter. It's a short break, and depending on where Good Friday and Easter Monday or Sunday sit, it also sort of can make that holiday a little bit flexible as well. So, it just makes it, get a couple of days either way, because you might get the Good Friday off and then you start your week or however it works. But yeah, approximately a week off then. And then we start back after the Easter holidays for term 2, and again term 2 is approximately 10 weeks long, and like I said before, it depends on states and schools, but public school, I think it's about 9.5 weeks that term 2. And when I say a half, a couple of schools have pupil free days for teachers to be able to do all their planning and stuff at the beginning of terms. I know this term, we started on a Wednesday, but the teachers went back the Thursday prior, so they had, like 2 days of professional development sort of stuff, and then 3 days of, personal planning before the year actually commenced. So term 2, again, 10 weeks, and then come June, July, that is a big holiday here in the Territory, because the Territory, in the Northern Territory, we have a wet season and we have a dry season, and the June, July is the dry season. So we get 5 weeks off then. In Queensland, I think you only get 3. Other states you might get 2, but it's a really big one, and our Easter holiday break is shorter, and so with our September-October holiday break is shorter than it is in other states in this country, because we have the wet and dry season, and that is like the best time to take families away, do stuff, because it is beautiful. The weather is, it's not too hot, it's not too cold, so, and it's dry, it's not raining like it does for 6 months of the year here. So yeah, so term 1, 10 weeks, term 2, 10 weeks. We have a big June, July break, which is 4.5, 5 weeks. I say 5 just for it's and giggles. And then we come back and our next holiday is September, October. So we have another 10-week term after the June, July holidays, and we have holidays again in October. And then we have, that's the small one, like I said, and that's sort of like a week, week and a half, 10 days sort of tops, depending on what school you go to. And then we have our final term 4, which is another 10-week term, and then we, have our Christmas holidays, our Christmas break, and that is generally anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks, where depending on obviously what type of school you go to, where you are. So we are going back now. We had 6 weeks. We had 6 weeks here in the Territory. So that is how it works. We have 4 10-week terms. Our big holidays come. There's at Christmas time. So we finish school at like the 10th of December, and we're only going back now on the 24th of January. So we have all that time with Christmas, etc., to enjoy with our families and friends. So I hope that explained our school system to you. And the kids and the hubby are just coming in from a barbecue, and we are getting ready to go to bed.
Hello, this is what I.
Ooh.
This is what someone made me.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wow, and what a big
flower.
Whoa. Okay.
Radio. 4 petals.
We're going to
around 2 pops.
2 petals popped. Okay, well we're going to go start our bedtime routine, and I've got to do another video as well tonight about debt and my Dave Ramsey story. But I hope that explained your questions and gave you some answers. So thank you so much for Life Paths and Kayla Hates. They had a very similar question, so I just wanted to address it in a video. Okay, radio. So thank you so much for watching. And Life Paths also wanted to address. Okay, so in addition to that question that Kayla H asked, Life Paths also asked some questions about university costs, how the school system is broken down. So we have kindergarten here, or preschool in the Northern Territory, and then we have transition through to grade 6 at primary school, and then grade 7 through to grade 12 we do in high school, so we don't have the middle school component, even though we do have lots of programs throughout the various states and territories that focus on that middle school developmental sort of period, and have teachers that are very sort of specifically trained to address that year 7 sort of 8 age group. Within the school system itself, it's mostly preschool, prep, whatever we call it. It's named something different in the different states, but here in Northern Territory it's called preschool, and then we have transition, and then grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all at a primary school, and then the kids go to high school for grade 7 through to grade 12. Our university system, so generally when they leave grade 12 they're about 17. I was 16 because I'm a December baby, but they're generally sort of 17, and then the kids can go to university. If they go to university, there is a system in place called the Higher Education Contribution Scheme, which obviously is sort of like a student debt thing. Lucky for us here in Australia though, if you don't get a job once you leave university that pays you over 30,000 Australian dollars, you actually don't have to pay off your debt at all. So, for me at this moment in time, I don't have to make any contributions to my student debt, but I did when I was out and employed. But whilst I'm staying at home with the kids, it's sort of frozen, but it has to be paid off eventually. But there's nobody knocking on my door saying you need to make these payments, that sort of thing. So education at university here is expensive, yes. From what I understand though, the American system is a lot more competitive to get into and very, very expensive, and that's just based on my experience of watching movies and listening to people talk about their student debt and how much debt they have when they come out. So I went to university and I got an education degree. I was a high school teacher before I got married and had children. And my degree in total, I paid, I think, $2,000 a semester for. so $4,000 a year. So my degree cost me $16,000. I think for degrees like medicine, you're paying more, but certainly not, you know, we're not talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think they would probably pay, you know, something like $5,000 a semester, possibly 10. It does vary between universities, obviously, but you know, I'm quite confident that, you know, 90% of degrees you could walk away from, you know, with, you know, under 100,000 for, you know, the dentists, the doctors, the big ones, but you know, sort of $20,000 if you wanted to, you know, be a teacher or something to that effect. It also is a lot cheaper if you pay for your subjects that you do upfront as you're doing them. So in primary school and high school here, we have uniforms. Some private schools are very strict on their uniform policies. Some public schools are not so strict. So for example, at my son's school, his shorts have to be navy blue. At a private school, his shorts have to be navy blue, but they would have to be a certain brand and bought at the uniform shop and blah, 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 embroidered with such and all that sort of malarkey. But the flexibility at the public school is that he can wear any pair of navy blue shorts and that's okay. So yeah, and they can't really enforce it because public schools obviously have all the different people from all the different socioeconomic groups. So even if you know, they're not wearing the uniform, there's not really much done, or there's no sort of follow-up. So yeah, and cost, primary school here in the Northern Territory is free. There is a voluntary contribution that you can make as parents, but it's only something like $50 a year. So really, really affordable, and we're really lucky where we are. Also, like I was saying, we get subsidised for things as well. So we get $250 towards uniforms, and that gets me 3 shirts, 2 pairs of shorts, and a book bag, you know, that has all their books and stationery and stuff that they're going to require throughout the year. So yeah, we are really, really lucky where we are. We also get sporting vouchers as well. So for example, my son or my school age children that go to school also get a $250 a semester, so that's every 2 terms, voucher to put towards sports and athletics, and $100 to put towards swimming lessons. So that was a nice little bonus when we moved here, because that does not happen in any of the other states and territories as far as I'm aware. So that $250 for my son covers 2 judo lessons a week for the whole year. So, you know, really, really lucky on the little perks here where we are living right now. So hopefully that answered all your questions. Thank you so much, Kayla H and Life Path, for your question. I really appreciate it, and I hope I addressed them. If there's something that I didn't specifically talk about that you wanted to hear about, please feel free to comment again and tell me that you wanted to know more. Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate this. Okay, I've just gone to upload the video, and there's a couple of questions that I forgot to do, or yeah, space my mind. And the first one was from Life Paths about compulsory age of schooling. Now here in the Northern Territory, we have the additional year of preschool, which children can go to at 4, and that is not compulsory. It's not in Queensland. It was phased out quite some time ago. They used to call it kindergarten. So that is not a compulsory year, and neither is transition here as well. So my kids have gone to preschool and they've gone to transition, and then you have year 1. So there's 2 years that are not compulsory that the kids can go to and be a part of before they get to year 1. In saying this though, if you don't send your child to those 2 years, they are really behind the 8 ball, because in preschool, so when they're 4 years old, my daughter was learning sounds and her phonics, and so it was just like is the S, you know, identifying the S and the sounds that they made, and you know, all those sorts of things. But transition, you know, they learned something like 150 sight words in the transition year alone, and all of the letters, and count to 100. So if you choose not to send your children to those 2 years of schooling that are not compulsory, they are really behind the 8 ball when they get to grade 1, and there's some serious catching up and work to do, which you would probably have to do with them, you know, because, you know, like there's 24 children in a class that teachers need to be worried about. And that's another little thing that I wanted to add in, was about class numbers. 24 kids is a primary school class on average. Preschool transition is about 16, so they are really low numbers as well. Sorry, I'm just going to check on my life path questions again, because there was a couple there that I forgot to answer. So I addressed the thing about middle schooling. We don't have the middle school, we just have primary school and high school. College, yes, very expensive. I also talked about the uniform thing. Private schools and the cost of private schools. Now, I was sent to a private high school, and, you know, in the general schemes of things, it was a fairly, you know, middle of the range private high school. There are certainly private high schools that are a lot more expensive than the ones that I went to. But just to give you a rough ballpark figure, my parents paid, keeping in mind that I'm an only child, they paid about $25,000 a year for me to be able to go to a private high school. Did I get a better education? No, I think not. The public system here in Australia is a really good system, and even if I had the money, and I'm not just saying this because I was a public school teacher, but I would not choose to send my children to private schools here in Australia, you know, even if I had the money to do so. So, yeah, mandatory school age is 6. So that is the year that they have to, by law, be in some sort of schooling environment. We do also have people over here that choose to homeschool. But yeah, so yeah, they can sort of do that if they want to. So yeah, typical age of children to learn and read in school, between 4 and 6. So, and like I said, if you're not choosing to do those 2 years of non-compulsory schooling, you're really starting behind the 8 ball. So yeah, I just wanted to add that little bit on at the end, because there was a couple of questions from Life Path that I forgot. So again, Life Path and Kayla H, thank you so much for your questions, and I really do appreciate the interaction and the interest in the videos about my children and their school. So yeah, thanks again for watching. Bye.